Are you out of your mind, Jake? Lila stood frozen in the middle of the kitchen, phone clutched in her hand, her face the color of slate. You transferred $150,000 to her? To your mother? Jacob sat at the table, pushing a spoon through his now cold soup, pretending not to hear. The steam had long vanished, leaving a greasy film on the surface. Want more gripping, real-life stories that hit close to home? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for deeper dives into the dramas of everyday life. Don't yell in my ear, I already told you, he muttered into his bowl. It's Mom's milestone birthday, a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Once in a lifetime? Lila took a step closer, her slippers whispering on the laminate floor she'd once been so proud of. Jacob, your mom has these milestones on a yearly schedule. Last year it was the big 6-5 we must celebrate. The year before that, make your old mother happy. And every single time you show up with an envelope, but $150,000? Our entire safety net. Do you have any idea what you've done? Will you keep it down? He winced, finally looking up. What's with the hysterics? We would have spent it on something else anyway. At least this helps someone. Helps who? Lila's fists clenched at her sides, her knuckles white. We're drowning in debt. We're swamped. I haven't bought a single thing off list at the grocery store in 6 months. I gave up my manicures, I buy the cheapest drugstore makeup, and you just blow $150,000 on a restaurant party for your mother? Don't call her that. Jacob's head snapped up, his eyes sharp. She's my mother. Yours, yes, but we're living on my nerves, on my endurance. Lila's voice cracked, but she pushed on. I'm exhausted, you get that? Every month is a tightrope walk, waiting for payday like it's manna from heaven, all while hearing, Mom needs help, Mom's short this month, Mom asked. He leaned back in his chair, a crooked, defensive smile on his lips. Exactly, Mom asked, and her son helped. What's the crime? The crime is you're not a son, you're a puppet. The words tore from her. She pulls the strings and you dance. Listen, Jacob's voice dropped, becoming flat and hard. Cut the hurtful crap. I'm not going to sit here and listen to you trash my mother. And I'm not going to listen to you justify betrayal, she shot back. Yes, betrayal, because you didn't even tell me, you didn't consult me, you just took it and transferred it, like I'm just part of the furniture. He stood up, pacing the small kitchen as if movement could dissipate his irritation. Calm down, money is just money, we'll earn more. Where do you live, Jacob? She threw her hands up in disbelief. Prices are skyrocketing, groceries cost a fortune, the utilities are strangling us. We have a $25,000 a month loan payment, and it's always, we'll earn more, we'll earn more. We've been living on the financial edge for 3 months straight. Stop being dramatic, he grumbled. It's fine. It's fine for you, she turned to the window, staring at the gray, sodden courtyard. Puddles lay like shattered mirrors. A stray dog trotted by, the wind chasing a swirl of dead leaves. I was saving that money, you understand? For a rainy day. Well, guess what? The storm is here, today. Jacob was silent. Then he sighed heavily, rubbing his forehead as if a permanent ache had settled there. All right, he said, quieter. I didn't realize it mattered that much to you. Because you don't think. About us, about this home, about me, she whirled around. It's just Mom, Mom, Mom. He waved a dismissive hand, exasperated. Enough. I'm tired of your accusations. I helped my mother. I didn't steal it. I didn't drink or gamble it away. I helped. That's my duty, in case you were wondering. And I am your duty, your wife, your home, your life. Or am I just a roommate who shares your bank account? A thick silence descended, broken only by the aggressive ticking of the kitchen clock and the distant hum of traffic. Jacob looked away. The room smelled of congealed food and fresh, stinging resentment. This story didn't start with these shouts. It began back when remodeling felt like building a dream, and the loan was just a temporary hurdle. Lila was no dreamer. She was an accountant at a logistics firm, precise, punctual, always with a folder under her arm. The apartment was her grandmother's legacy, aging but full of potential. She'd done so much herself, chosen the curtains, rearranged the furniture, even retiled the bathroom once. It was enough until Eleanor, his mother, firmly entered their lives. She was the kind of woman who always knew how things should be. She spoke with an authority that suggested she'd never made a mistake. From the moment she crossed the threshold, the critique began. This is dusty, this light is too dim, these walls are so dreary, and all with an expression that said she'd entered not her son's home, but a disappointing rental. You should at least change this wallpaper, she'd say, shrugging off her expensive coat. It's ancient. Jacob, be a man. Move your wife into proper conditions. Lila would grit her teeth. She wanted to retort, but she stayed silent, for the sake of peace. Then came the talk about the renovation. You should take out a loan, do it nicely, then you won't be ashamed to have people over. Jacob, as usual, yielded. After all, Mom meant well. Lila had hesitated for a long time. A loan was serious, but under the combined pressure of her husband and his mother, she'd relented. She thought maybe it really was time for an update. They borrowed $1 million, dove into the chaos. Dust, bags of construction waste, contractors, the usual drill. They lived with her parents, waiting for their new nest. When it was finally done, the apartment looked like a magazine spread. Light walls, glossy laminate, a brand new kitchen. Even Eleanor gave a nod of approval. Now this is civilized. That joy was short-lived. The loan was a constant weight. Every month, $25,000 vanished into the bank's bottomless pit. They economized on everything: food, clothes, any notion of leisure. But Lila didn't complain. She endured. She thought, we'll manage. The important thing is we're together. Then came the changes she didn't notice at first. Little things. Jacob was increasingly glued to his phone, whispering with his mother. He started asking her advice on everything: how to clean the kettle, how to fry fish, which detergent was best. At first, Lila laughed. Then she stopped. Can you not live without her for a minute? She asked once. You're a grown man and Mommy still gives you instructions. He'd answered with a smirk. At least she knows how to do it right. That was the first time she felt it, the sensation that there were 3 people in this marriage, not a couple, not a family, but mom and son, with her somewhere on the sidelines, a spare wheel. It got harder every month. Mom would call needing help with medicines, contributing for the utilities, alone until pension day, and he never once refused. 5,000, then 10, then 20. Lila tried to talk calmly. Jacob, we have our own budget black hole. We can barely handle our own expenses. He'd just brush her off. Don't start. We'll manage. We'll manage, his favorite phrase, but in the end, she was the one managing. He helped his mother, she paid the bills. Until one day in early October, she logged into their online banking and saw that number, minus 150,000. The account where she'd squirreled away every spare hundred, every thousand, for emergencies. And everything inside her shattered. You could have at least told me, she said quietly after the initial storm had passed. Could have warned me. Warn you about what? He wearily sank onto the couch. Mom's having a milestone. 65 is a big one. She wanted to do it right. I helped. Do it right? She snorted. And how do we live now, on air? Should I start selling my makeup? He said nothing. He turned on the TV. A show about home renovations was on, of course. See, he said, gesturing at the screen. People take loans too, it's fine. The main thing is not to overreact. Lila was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, Jacob, I'm not overreacting. I'm exhausted. He turned and looked at her, but said nothing, and that nothing was worse than any shout. The next day, she came home from work later than usual. A drizzle fell, making the asphalt gleam under the streetlights. Her bag was heavy, her mind a buzzing static. The stairwell smelled of damp laundry and something else, something stale. She inserted the key, opened the door. Quiet inside, just the mumble of the TV from the living room. Jacob was home, on his phone again. "Did you eat?" she asked automatically. "Mm-hmm." "Mom called," he answered, not looking up. "She had guests over, said it went great." "Well, at least someone's happy," she huffed and walked to the kitchen. She sat down, opened the notebook where she tracked everything, expenses, payment dates, interest rates. The numbers danced before her eyes. She sighed and thought, "No, this can't go on. Either he grows up or I walk." What would you do in Lila's situation? Where's the line between helping family and sacrificing your own? Share your thoughts in the comments below. She closed the notebook, poured herself some tea, and stared out the window at the reflection of the identical apartment building across the way. Gray, paneled, with dozens of anonymous windows. Behind each, another life, another Lila, another Jacob, and probably another Eleanor. Time to decide, she thought, but the decision would come a little later. For now, there was just the weight, accumulated over the years. After Lila saw that cursed bank statement, a silence settled over the apartment. Not just quiet, a thick, viscous silence, like syrup. They spoke only when necessary. Pass the salt? Did you pay the water bill? Is the payment done? That was it. No jokes, no smiles, no "how was your day?" They lived like polite strangers. Only at night you could hear the quiet rustling as one of them turned over, each on their own side of a vast bed. Jacob seemed oblivious to the chasm between them. Everything proceeded as usual. Work, phone calls, rare shared dinners. Only now, Lila stopped asking who he was texting, and he stopped offering explanations. 2 weeks passed. October dragged on, damp and chilly. Mornings were foggy, evenings brought a penetrating drizzle. People hunched in their jackets, hurrying home to a different kind of dampness, the kind that seeps into your spirit. One evening, Jacob came home later than usual. He kicked off his shoes in the doorway, but lingered, scrolling through his phone. Lila was at the kitchen table, calculating their remaining funds before the next round of payments. "Talking to Mom again?" she asked, not lifting her eyes. "Yeah, so what?" he replied calmly. "Her washing machine broke. Asked me to check where to buy a cheaper one." "Hopefully not with our money," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. He exhaled heavily, shrugged off his jacket, and tossed it over a chair. "Here we go again. Everything was fine. I was just checking prices. I'm not buying anything." "Not yet," she muttered. "You think I'm an idiot, don't you?" He raised his voice. "You think I don't see how you look at me, with suspicion, like I'm some kind of thief? And how else should I look after you helped once already?" she cut in, "to the tune of 150,000, by the way." "How long are you going to throw that in my face?" Jacob flared up. "Yes, I transferred it. Yes, I didn't tell you. Enough already. I didn't cheat on you." "Is this any better?" Lila stood up. "That money was our stability, our peace of mind, and you threw it away like it was nothing." He stepped closer, now inches from her. "Money is just paper. My mother is a person." "And what am I?" she cried out. "What am I to you? A joint bank account?" A pause hung between them. Jacob stepped back, his voice low. "You're tired. Go to bed." She didn't answer, sat back down, stared at the notebook, but the numbers wouldn't add up anymore. Everything was blurry. A couple of days later, Eleanor called, as always, without greeting or preamble. "Jake, sweetie, I have a problem," she began in a theatrically weary voice. "I have no grandchildren to help me, so you're all I've got. The car needs repairs. The transmission gave out. Can you believe it? After all these years?" "How much?" he asked automatically. Well, at least 80,000. I'll figure it out, of course, but maybe you could. Mom, things are tight right now, Jacob started. We have the loan, you know that. The loan, she drawled. So I'm supposed to walk everywhere? I've always done everything for you, given you the shirt off my back, and now you grudge me 80,000? Lila stood by the kitchen door, listening to him mumble, to his familiar defensive justifications, like a teenager being scolded. Mom, don't pressure me, he mumbled. I'll think about it, okay? He hung up and caught her gaze. What, you'll think about it again? She asked coldly. Don't start, he grumbled. She's my mother. She's struggling. She's not struggling, Jacob. She's comfortable, very comfortable having a son with money and no backbone. He turned around, fists clenched. That's enough. I told you, stay out of it. This is my business. Ours, she exclaimed. Ours, because everything we have is bought on credit, and if you give her a single cent, You'll what? He challenged, cutting her off. What will you do? Then it won't be us living here, it'll be you and your mom, Lila said with a terrifying calm. And you can take this apartment with you if you can carry it. He grimaced, wanted to say something, but stayed silent. He just slammed the door and left. She sat at the table, covered her face with her hands. A dull roar filled her head. Is this how it happens? You live with someone and suddenly realize they have a whole other world where you're not allowed? The days stretched on, identical like the gray buildings outside. Work, home, work. Jacob started coming home later, irritable. His phone was always with him, under his pillow, in the bathroom, on the kitchen counter. A permanent appendage. Lila couldn't take it anymore. One morning after he left, she took his old laptop where his messages were synced, not out of curiosity, but out of sheer desperation. And she saw the correspondence. Not with another woman, with his mother. Eleanor wrote long, guilt-laden messages. You've forgotten all about me. It's all about your wife now. I guess I'm nobody. You must remember who raised you. Women come and go, a mother is forever. And he replied with obedience. Don't be upset, Mom. Leela's just stressed. I'll pay you back soon. Maybe I'll sell the TV, but I'll help you. Leela sat for a long time, reading those lines. Her heart felt like a fist squeezing tight. He'd sell their TV to help Mom? This wasn't help anymore, it was an addiction. As if he led two parallel lives, one real, the other Mom's world. She closed the laptop, a single thought hammered in her chest. Enough. It's her or me. That evening, when he returned, papers were already laid out on the table. Not legal documents, no, just printouts of their messages and a spreadsheet of their joint expenses for the past year. Leela sat perfectly still, unnervingly calm. Sit down, she said. He was wary, but sat, in silence. She slid the papers toward him. What's this? He frowned. What I learned today, she replied. Read it, or remember writing it yourself. He looked through them, his face losing color. You went through my laptop? I did, she said, her voice steady. And you know why? Because I can't live in someone else's marriage anymore, one where a third party holds the reins. That's my mother, he cried out. Do you even hear yourself? I hear myself perfectly, she said firmly, and so I'm saying this clearly. Jacob, I can't carry this anymore. Not emotionally, not financially. I can't live with a man for whom the word mom is more important than the word us. He stood up, pacing the room nervously. You're just jealous, he finally blurted. That's all this is. You have some complex. You want me to forget my mother, but I'm not that kind of person, got it? I won't abandon her. I'm not asking you to abandon her, Leela said quietly. I'm asking you to choose, because living as a trio is impossible. He froze, then laughed, a nervous, bitter sound. Is this an ultimatum? No, a simple fact. She stood up. I am no longer willing to carry this marriage on my shoulders. The loan is in my name. The apartment is mine. Everything else is your business. He took a step toward her. Wait, you're serious? You're kicking me out? I don't want to. I have to. He dropped his gaze, looked at the floor, then at her. His eyes held not anger, but utter confusion. Jacob, he exhaled, why does it have to be like this? We've been through so much. We have, she nodded, but you started walking a different path. She turned, went to the bedroom, and pulled his duffel bag from the closet. It was methodical, calm, devoid of hysterics. Clothes into the bag, his jacket on top. Jacob stood by the door, motionless. His lips moved silently. You'll regret this, you'll see. But she was no longer listening. When the door closed behind him, the apartment seemed to exhale. A deep silence settled. Even the radiators stopped their usual clanking. A week of silence. Then calls. He texted, called, begged to talk, showed up at the door, left notes. Lila didn't open it. Then a text came from Eleanor. Proud of yourself? You broke up a family. My son is practically homeless. You must be thrilled. Lila deleted the message. Not thrilled, she thought, just free. She began to live again, still in debt, still budgeting, but she bought herself a new mug, new curtains, small things, but hers. She made the loan payments on time, managed her affairs calmly. No more constant justifications, no more external demands. Sometimes in the evenings, she'd turn on an old sitcom and catch herself thinking that the apartment was finally filled with quiet, not with, Jake, buy this, Jake, help with that. A year later, she ran into him by chance at a mall. He was with a new wife, younger, polished, and guess who? Eleanor. They walked as a trio, a single unit, mom in front, son and daughter-in-law a step behind, carrying the shopping bags. He noticed Lila, stopped, gave an awkward nod. She returned a brief, neutral glance. No anger, no regret. She just looked and walked on. At home, pouring herself tea, she suddenly smiled, because for the first time in years, she felt she had her own home, a real one, without foreign calls, without external pressure. Her own air, her own silence, her own life. And in that silence, there was no loneliness, only peace. The kind of peace you can't buy for any $150,000. All characters and events in this story are fictional.